Okay. Hare Krishna. I'll start sharing my screen. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Samurtam Abhut Tushnim Krishnangari Sudaya Bhrusham Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Nimagna Sadhu Nirvataha Samurtam Abhut Tushnim Krishnangri Sudhaya Bhrisham Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Nimagna Sadhu Nirvataha. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.2.4, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Text 4. The synonyms: Sa, Uddhava, Muhurtam, for a moment, Abhut, became, Tushnim, dead silent, Krishna, hungry, the lotus feet of the Lord, Sudhaya, by the nectar, Bhrisham, well matured, Tivrena, by very strong, Bhakti Yogena, devotional service, Nimagnaha, absorbed in, Sadhu, good, Nirvataha, fully in love. Translation: for a moment he remained dead silent, and his body did not move. He became absorbed in the nectar of remembering the Lord's lotus feet in devotional ecstasy, and he appeared to be going increasingly deeper into that ecstasy. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. On the inquiry by Vidura about Krishna, Uddhava appeared to be awakened from slumber. He appeared to regret that he had forgotten the lotus feet of the Lord. Thus, he again remembered the lotus feet of the Lord and remembered all his transcendental loving service unto him. And by doing so, he felt the same ecstasy that he used to feel in the presence of the Lord. Because the Lord is absolute, there is no difference between his remembrance and his personal presence. Thus, Uddhava remained completely silent for a moment, but then he appeared to be going deeper and deeper into ecstasy. Feelings of ecstasy are displayed by highly advanced devotees of the Lord. There are 8 kinds of transcendental changes in the body: tears, shivering of the body, perspiration, restlessness, throbbing, choking of the throat, etc. And all were manifested by Uddhava in the presence of Vidura. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Morning everybody. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for joining today's class. Today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Text 4. And it's a very nectarian chapter by itself. So please stay tuned, please join in, and please open your hearts. That's the message for today. And it should be the message always, but more so today, since we are entering, the Nectarian chapter, where we're talking about the remembrance of Krishna. So Vidura is inquiring here about Krishna from Uddhava, cousin. Uddhava is the cousin of Krishna. And, just to give you a little further background, Vidura, as you know, came from a very high parentage. He was the son of Vyasadeva, and also, from a very high position as Yamaraj in the service of the personality of Godhead in his previous life. So he was not an ordinary being by any means. And this is why Vidura is also described by Sutta Goswami as Bhagavato Uttama, the topmost devotee of the Lord. He was a pure devotee that gave up everything, right? His riches, his family, his palace, right? Everything. Something that is so difficult, right? And equally pure and equally attractive was Uddhava. Uddhava was no ordinary person either. He was the cousin of Krishna, supremely dear to him, right? Uddhava was always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, in service to Krishna, ever since he was a child, right? We're told that, he even had the bodily features of Krishna, and his absorption was so intense that he would even forget to eat, even as a child. Even as a child. So he was constantly in the absorption of Krishna and always in his service. And he continued to do so even after Krishna was in Vrindavan and Uddhava was in Mathura. He was still in constant remembrance of Krishna. So as described in this verse, Uddhava went into a trance when Vidura asked him about Krishna. And as Prabhupada describes, he exhibited all the symptoms of intense Krishna prema that is so rare among human beings. What to speak, not only human beings, I'm talking about even devotees, getting to that stage of pure Krishna prema, the ultimate, the topmost stage of spontaneous affection for Krishna, right? That is the highest form of perfection. Now, when I think about myself and, in contrast, when we serve Krishna, it's more about, oh my God, I have to do my 16 rounds. Oh my God, if I don't do this for Krishna, something bad is going to happen, or something wrong is going to happen, or, it's not the right thing to do. So, in other words, there is a sense of duty, it's out of the sense of duty that I'm doing something. Oh, I have to do this, otherwise, you can fill in the blanks. It could be a sense of fear. It could be a sense of discipline, or just a sense of routine, right? I get up in the morning, I have to do my 16 rounds, no matter what, even if I'm doing it mechanically, right? Even if I'm doing it without even thinking, right? It becomes a routine. It becomes so mechanistic in the way I go about doing some of these services. So Srila Rupa Goswami calls this Vidhi Marg. Whereas, in contrast, the pure devotees of the Lord are not looking for opportunities or the time to perform these services or to engage in these devotional services. In fact, even when his own father was trying to kill him, Prahlad, as a five-year-old boy, as we know, he was completely absorbed in Krishna, right? If one can remember Krishna, even during the most dire circumstances, that is the best thing that can happen to us, right? That is perfection. That is the spontaneity that Krishna loves and reciprocates. And that's Bhakti Marg. It is spontaneous, it is uninterrupted. Kaviraj Goswami has said, Chaitanya Charitamrita Karo Nityatan, Jaha hoite Premananda Bhakti Bhajo Jan. So he says, when one, what he means is that one should hear properly, one should remember, and one should relish the glories of the Lord every day by reading, by hearing from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, from the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Nitya. Nitya is continually, always. And Tan, as he says, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Karo Nitya Tan. Tan is to relish, to actually get the taste and actually relish that, by hearing, by proper hearing. And what happens when that happens? Jaha hoite premananda bhakti bhajo jan. So one will have transcendental knowledge in his head and ecstatic love in his heart. So I'd like to put today's discussion in the context of our new paradigm. The new temple, as we know, for Sri Radha Madhav, Sri Radha Shamsundar is coming up. It's happening, right? In April, we are having the inaugural. The Prana Pratishtha of Sri Radha Shamsundar is planned. And with that is going to happen all the other services that come about in terms of maintaining the temple, in terms of running the temple, in terms of serving the devotees, in terms of serving the congregation, in terms of serving the community at large. So we will all have many services. We'll all have many opportunities to connect. And not only to connect, as we are in Kali Yuga, there will also be many opportunities for conflict as well. So I will bring this together, but keep this in the back of your mind. I'd like to remind us, that we are entering this new paradigm. And along with that, there are implications, there are consequences, there are responsibilities, things that we all have to collectively hold hands together and bear and do cheerfully, right? So many times what happens is, as we're hearing and we hear, and thanks to all the wonderful devotees that, come to our temple and have been coming to our temple, we have our spiritual master who, was constantly giving us day after day, time after time, messages, lessons, instructions from Srimad Bhagavatam and other, bona fide scriptures. And many times what happens is our heads become heavy with knowledge, right? As I heard Amrendra Prabhu say once, we become PhDs in our heads, but we remain kindergartners at heart. So when life tests us, we respond from the head. Do we? No, we respond from the heart, and not from the head. The problem is the head doesn't work when we are in trying circumstances. Our spontaneity comes from the heart, right? So when Krishna jumped into River Yamuna, the hoods of Kaliya came up and came out. And that's how we are, right? When someone throws stones at us, or, if you look at it in one sense, throwing stones into the pond of our consciousness, we can either see, the hand of Krishna, or we can see that as an attack on our ego, right? And our false ego is so strong. It is so strong that it pulls us away from knowing who we really are, isn't it? And someone says something that we don't like, or that is not attractive, or something that we feel is challenging us, we immediately become defensive, right? We get this hood around us, the hood of Kaliya, so to speak, that completely stands in front and is like ready to attack. And that's what happens because our false ego is so strong. We tend to become defensive, in such situations. And after all, who are we? I mean, when we think about the bigger picture, who are we? Who are we? We are nothing but insignificant parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. And our Our purpose in life is only to serve the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, with love in this life and beyond, right? Whether we are coming back in another body in our next life, or in the millions of bodies that we will be coming back in the millions of lifetimes down the road, our objective and goal in life is to serve the Lord, right? And that's because that is our constitutional position. That is our Swarupena Vyavasthiti, right? That is who we are. However, we forget who we are, especially in the heat of the moment, right? When someone is throwing stones at us, whether it's in the form of words or actual stones, right? Everything changes in that heat of the moment. Suddenly our consciousness changes. And instead of, Prabhuji, I'm your servant, I'm your humble servant, I'm your eternal servant, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams, all of that disappears. Instead, the mind is, the heart is reacting in a way that, the mind is telling us, no, 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 this is not right. This person is trying to challenge you. This person is attacking you. So you need to get your hood out. And you need to be equally mean to this person, right? And then your mind is thinking, who is this person? Who is this? Are you better than me? I'm better than you. All of these stupid thoughts, petty thoughts are going through our heads. And we see that everywhere today, right? People fight for the smallest of things, smallest of things. Someone cuts into my lane while I'm driving and I get terribly upset. I get agitated. Someone doesn't say Hare Krishna Mataji and you feel like you're not being respected, right? This mindset continues into groups where people fight and kill over petty, petty things, right? Over ideologies. We're seeing that in the news today, and for many, many, many years and decades, and nothing's changed. Nations fight with other nations over small things. This border is not drawn right, your cattle came across the border into my land, and things like that. And there are other things like for natural resources and so on. People get greedy, right? Nations get greedy and politicians get greedy. They want to get their own agendas in place. And so what happens? The innocent people suffer. The consequences are terrible, because we're not placing Krishna in the center. When there is no love anymore, there is no humility, there's no softness of the heart anymore. It is more about me trying to get back at you, whether it's me as an individual or me as an institution or me as a nation trying to get back at you. And innocent people are bombed. Innocent people are killed. Women and children are killed, innocent, for no fault of theirs. They get caught between these two parties. So lower the consciousness, the faster we get agitated for the smallest things. If everyone has kheer and you get kheer, you're fine with that. You may not be, super happy about it, but hey, you're fine. Everybody's getting kheer, you're getting kheer, you're fine. For the moment the person next to you gets some gulab jamun or gets some jalebi or gets some sandesh or something, exotic like that, and you're getting kheer, then it's a different story altogether. Right? You're super agitated. So instead, we should rise above, all these petty things. Michelle Obama's famous quote comes to my mind where, she would say, when she said, when things get low, we get higher. In other words, we should not stoop down to the lowest levels. When people are bringing it down to the lowest level, we should get higher, meaning not saying I'm better than you, but instead looking at the bigger picture and saying, and tolerating that, knowing that the person is being ignorant or being, passionate or being, it's the modes that are acting on us, right? So having that realization is very, very, very important, especially during those situations. And those situations happen just like that, right? It doesn't take much in Kali Yuga for the smallest of things. And that adds up. When things add up like that, they fester sometimes and then they blow up like a pressure cooker. Boom, it goes. So don't even let it get to that situation. So as devotees mature, their levels of tolerance and wisdom also increase. And what's the fundamental difference there? The fundamental difference there is that they see the hand of Krishna, right? They see the presence of Krishna. They see that Krishna is the one who is directing all of this. And all for our good. All for our good, right? Krishna is all good. He's not only all attractive, he is all good. Whatever he is doing it with complete knowledge. I mean, he's the supreme controller after all, right? Sarva karana karana. He is the cause of all causes. It's not like, he's saying, oops, I was concentrating on something else, or I was playing here, or I was doing that. I forgot and this happened. I'm so sorry. No, he's not saying that. He's the supreme controller. He is completely in control of everything that he does. And not just that, he also is doing it. Nothing happens without his sanction, right? He is aware of everything that is happening, and he sanctions the various things that are happening as well. Nothing happens without Krishna's sanction. So keeping that in mind is very, very important in our day-to-day life, in every activity, in every moment, in every instance, in every circumstance. A devotee has to rise above that. And that's why one of my godbrothers would say, a good devotee, a devotee by definition is good and is pure. We should all be aspiring to be like that devotee, right? Becoming a pure devotee, that should be our goal, where there is spontaneous love. He would say, devotees are substantial, not circumstantial. And that resonated very heavily with me as well. We tend to forget, I tend to forget, but when I reflect on some of the ways in which I've reacted instead of responding, I realize that, a devotee should be substantial, meaning should understand what is the basis, what is the purpose of our lives, what is the true nature of a devotee in relationship to Krishna. We shouldn't let circumstance lead our thought process and the way we react and respond. So therefore, devotees are never circumstantial. Devotees are substantial. They are substantial. And the substance is that devotional spirit towards Krishna. Now, this is the case where even if Hiranyakashipu tried his best to kill his very own son, Prahlad, it didn't get anywhere close to upsetting Prahlad or getting his attention away from what he was doing, which was total absorption of Krishna, right? We know of everything that Hiranyakashipu did. His main agenda from morning to night, even though he was, at that point in time, he was the ruler of the three worlds. He had powerful armies. He had powerful weapons. He was in so much control that he terrified. I mean, he was, he terrified everybody in all the worlds, especially, even King of the heavens, Swargaloka, King Indra, Lord Indra. Even he was petrified. So much so that if it is said in the scriptures that if Hiranyakashipu raised even an eyebrow, the 33 crore demigods would shiver. They would shake, not knowing what Hiranyakashipu would do next. Everybody was terrified of Hiranyakashipu. And it was not like Hiranyakashipu was being whimsical about, going after his own son. This was like his primary agenda at that point. He just wanted to make sure he could eliminate Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj at that time was not Prahlad Maharaj, he was Prahlad. Bhakta Prahlad, he was only a few years old. He was a young boy, harmless, innocent. But then he was equipped with that transcendental knowledge, which resided not in his head, but in his heart. So he was in constant bliss because he was constantly remembering Krishna. He was constantly remembering Krishna. Krishna Eka Sharana. He was completely surrendered to Krishna. That is the highest form of all the transcendental qualities that are mentioned, even in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. There is an entire chapter in terms of all the transcendental qualities that are, that are characteristic of a devotee. And of all those qualities, the topmost of those qualities is Krishneka Sharana, being completely surrendered to Krishna. And what does that surrender entail? Remembrance of Krishna. Now take Kamsa, another demon, right? If you think Hiranyakashipu was bad, you even look at Kamsa. Kamsa was another demon. His hands, we're told, had the power and the strength of 10,000 maddened elephants, not just 10,000 elephants. That in itself is huge. 10,000 maddened elephants. Can you imagine the damage that he could, exercise? Ravana was equally a terrible demon. He had so much power. He had, in his hands. And not just power in his hands, he not one head, he had 10 heads as well. So these demons, and again, keep in mind, these demons, they may not look terrible, in terms of facial, as it's portrayed in, a lot of different stories, movies, things like that, where demons come with horns and stuff like that, folk tales and tridents and all of that. Doesn't have to be that way. In fact, these demons, some of these demons are so good looking, they're handsome. Very attractive personalities in one sense, right? So that is like a garb, it's like a disguise. And we also know that some of these demons, like take Ravana, take Kamsa, take even Hiranyakashipu for that matter, they were experts in the scriptures. They knew the scriptures and they would quote from the scriptures and, the slokas left, right, and center. During Hiranyaksha, who was Hiranyakashipu's brother, during his funeral, the eulogy that Hiranyakashipu gave were references from the scriptures. He spoke so beautifully that it inspired everybody around him. In terms of the impermanence of the body, and that the soul is the one that is eternal and that it moves and it transmigrates from one body to another. So Hiranyakashipu gives this beautiful lecture, so to speak, giving it with proper references from the scriptures. But the difference between the devotee and the demon is that the demon does not follow, even though he is so eloquent when it comes to, speaking from the scriptures and quoting from the scriptures. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita teaches us that when we hear, chant, and remember Krishna, the lotus of the heart opens. And we see the hand of Krishna. So during one of the morning walks, Srila Prabhupada saw a man doing jumping jacks. And immediately Srila Prabhupada said, that is exercise for the human body. And this, pointing to his beads, to his japa beads, he said, this is the exercise for the soul. And that transformed how the disciples, saw, when they saw people exercising, their thought went back to how it is important to exercise, find the right exercise for the soul, which is chanting, right? Hearing and chanting. So that's how devotees remember Krishna. So they connect everything back to Krishna. I remember one of my god brothers telling me about how he went to pick up our Guru Maharaj from the airport once. And when he picked Guru Maharaj, he found that, one of his baggage was torn. So Guru Maharaj told him, please go talk to the airport official and, the baggage counter and, have it fixed. So my god brother went, spoke to the baggage official, and long story short, not once, not twice, but multiple times he had to go back and forth, back and forth. In fact, even after dropping Maharaj, Guru Maharaj back, in his quarters in the temple, this prabhu, this god brother of mine, had to go back and forth all the way to the airport just to handle and resolve this baggage issue. So at one point he was thinking to himself, he confessed to me, he said, I was thinking to myself, why is Guru Maharaj sending me for this baggage? This baggage is probably what, $20, $30, $50, maybe $100, Why is Guru Maharaj making me do this? But then a little more introspection, and then he realized that my Guru Maharaj is so merciful, that he not only wants to give me the service of serving him and Krishna in turn, but he's giving the baggage official, one who doesn't have a clue, right? He may not even be in that mood, or, may not even be aware. But then indirectly, he is also being put in service of Krishna. That is how merciful devotees are. That is how how merciful our spiritual master is. We may not realize the services that we are given may not be the ones that we are asking for, or we're looking for, or looking forward to. But nevertheless, these services are being given to us for a good reason, to connect us, to remind us that we're getting this from Krishna. Because after all, everything that we do, everything that is given to us is given through the sanction of Krishna, as I said earlier, right? Krishna is giving us that. Finally, it goes back to Krishna. We have to trace everything back to Krishna. We are only instruments. And sometimes we are the receivers. We are the receiving end. In fact, Maya is dealing it, giving it to us. She's giving us a heavy hand almost all the time. This is not working. That is broken. This morning I woke up, my phone wasn't working. It was completely dead. It's a brand new phone. It's $1,000 phone. Do I need it? Maybe not. But hey, I expect it to work. It's an Apple. It doesn't work. So I woke up this morning and I was desperately trying to figure out, why didn't my alarm go off? It was 3:30 in the morning and I was scratching my head. I was thinking I still have to, get up and prepare for class today. But nothing happened. The phone didn't ring. And so, our dependence on these things also is increasing, notice, right? And that's increasing the chances for things to fail and for us to get disappointed and for us being dealt with situations that we really don't look forward to, don't like, and don't anticipate. But there is a reason for everything, because it's coming from Krishna. Krishna doesn't do anything whimsically. And so, like I said earlier also, a devotee is not circumstantial. So we don't react and get, upset, this person is being mean to me. Oh, I'm getting this service which I don't like. This is not the service that I want. I want to do that service. We are coming into this new paradigm. We all need to recognize that the services that are given to us, we should be taking it with folded arms, folded hands, because it is coming from Krishna. We're having a brilliant opportunity to do something for Krishna. We may not be trained. We may not have the capacity. We may not have the knowledge or the wherewithal to be able to do it. But that's just the starting point. But the starting point, even more importantly, is recognizing that it is coming from Krishna. It's not the person who's giving us the service, because that person who's giving us the service is nothing but an instrument of Krishna. An instrument of Krishna. And in doing so, they're being very merciful because they're giving us what would have otherwise not come to us that easily, right? It would have gone in different directions, or we may not have even seen it happen or coming our way. So they say, there's a common usage in English language saying, don't shoot the messenger, right? Don't shoot the messenger. Similarly, it's when something like that happens to us and it's not in line with what we want, our reaction should not be to go against that person who's giving it to us. Rather, we should respond by thinking, Krishna is giving it to us and for a good reason, for our own purification. And when he gives us these services, and even if we are not qualified, and even if we are not in a position, meaning we don't have the capacity or the knowledge or the wherewithal, Krishna is there to give us and empower us with the required capabilities. Yena mam upayantite. He says, by doing that, buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. Right? So he says, I give you that transcendently. Dadati buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. He says, I will give you that knowledge by which you can come to me. So we just have to apply ourselves. Remember Krishna and take his help, take his shelter, take his guidance, and he will provide what we need to be able to exercise those services. So that's very important, right? So as we do this, we come to a realization that there is a higher power. There is not just the knowledge, but there is this devotional spirit that also has to go hand in hand when we are given these services, when things happen to us, good or bad, in life. Another realization that comes to my mind, from one of Amarendra Prabhu's, beautiful lectures is about how to make this connection with Krishna also, right? So if you take a stone and throw it on the ground, take a stone and just throw it on the ground, what happens? Just falls on the ground, boom, right? Nothing attractive about that. Take the same stone and walk up to a very calm body of water. It could be a pond, it could be a lake, it could be, just a very calm body of water. And drop the stone, what happens? We see these beautiful ripples in harmony, right? Or almost you can represent it by a mathematical equation. You can represent it by your visual experience, and you will see it is so calm and peaceful and so beautiful. The ripples in the water are almost musical. The same stone. You take that stone, drop it on the ground, on solid ground, nothing, it just falls, boom, and makes one horrible noise, and that's it. So what we need to take away from that is that our hearts should also be like that calm, peaceful, loving body of water. So even when stones are thrown at us or thrown at us, we're not reacting like the noise on a solid ground, but rather we create those beautiful ripples of love, the ripples of love which spread and make everybody, the entire atmosphere and everything around us also pleasant and peaceful, right? And they're putting them also in a mood of service. Think about it, right? It is so contagious, right? When we get angry, we get agitated when something goes wrong, let's say at the beginning of the day, the rest of the day we're grumpy, we're agitated, we're shouting at people, our fuse is very, very short with everything that's happening around us. And that is contagious. People around us are also reacting to how we are, right? The vibes are not good. So then the negative vibes are contagious. And it creates noise. At some point in time, everybody is like grumpy, walking around, messing with things and messing with people, and feelings are being hurt, words are being said. It's like a downward spiral. The whole day goes like that. Whereas when the other way of looking at it is the positive side is when we respond with a sense of peace and calm and tolerance, and we engage ourselves in that service in a nice way and say, hey, this is happening for a reason, this is coming from Krishna, and remembering that aspect of Krishna where he's being so merciful that he's doing this to help me purify myself and help me grow in my service and help me bring myself closer to him, right? That's when it becomes even more contagious. And that good feeling, that positive vibe is spreading like the ripples in the pond. And everybody and everything around us also is absorbing all of that. So the negative energy goes away. It's all the positive energy. And we need to work on that, especially in this new paradigm. As we get into this new paradigm of our new temple, it's going to be a lot more in terms of services, in terms of interactions. And we need to ensure that there is positive energy always. And we need to carry that positive energy. We cannot expect the other person to be carrying. We need to do it. We need to start. We need to be that change agent. It starts with us. It starts with us. You may not like everything that the other person is saying, but hey, keep in mind, it's coming from Krishna. Nothing happens without the sanction of Krishna. So let's not react and have that negative energy spoil our day, spoil us, spoil our consciousness, and spoil everybody else's consciousness as well. Don't. Let's not get into that aspect of it. Keep that in mind. And if you can't handle it, that's fine too. Walk away. Step away from that. If you're not able to handle it, you don't have to stand there and take that negative energy over and over again to a point that it becomes a boiling point, right? And then you explode and things go haywire. We don't need to get to that situation. We don't need to wait till it gets to that situation. So some of us, we all have varying levels of tolerance to these kinds of things, right? So let's be aware of that. And the moment we feel like we're reaching that breaking point, let's step aside. Respectfully step aside and move away and say, hey, we can take this discussion later, or, to the other person, we can tell them, let's do this some other time, right? Or you can say, I hear you, point noted, let me think about it, let me work on it, and just walk away. You don't have to react. We don't have to respond in a negative way. So we need to become aware of the higher aspects in life, even from the smallest of things. And it doesn't always have to be, a physical, or a verbal interaction between two people, right? It could be even small things. Look at it from a positive aspect, So every time I take that sip of water, my thought goes to Krishna. Krishna, what I liked in one of the things that resonated in the Bhagavad Gita reading is when Krishna says, I am the taste of water. He doesn't say, I am a taste in the water. He says, I am the taste of the water. And not only from an English language perspective, but more so, Krishna is there everywhere, right? So being able to remember on a warm summer day, when you take the sip of cool, cold water, and you remember this particular statement from Krishna, it reminds you of Krishna. You feel so good. You feel so happy, so blissful that, yes, that is true. I feel not only is my thirst quenched, but Krishna, you're so merciful that you make it, you do that so easily. Right? So I don't want to belabor this point, but when something bad happens to us, or when someone is being mean to us, we need to understand that this person is merely an instrument, right? That is sanctioned to do that by Krishna. And also know that Krishna loves us more than anyone else. I mean, he's not standing there to punish us. He's not standing there to, give us a hard time just whimsically, okay? There is a reason for everything that he's, because he knows us better than we know ourselves. In fact, he loves us more than we love ourselves, right? Because he knows us from time immemorial, right? He knows us for the billions of lifetimes. We only know know ourselves only for this lifetime. Krishna knows us and has known us for the billions of lifetimes prior to this, and for the billions of lifetimes after this. So Krishna is with us. We are in part and parcel of Krishna in that sense. So the idea is we need to soften our hearts every day, not to say that we should become meek, but to receive the mercy of Krishna through his devotees and through proper hearing. So that's when the remembrance of Krishna becomes spontaneous. Now, Uddhava and Vidura were great examples of this virtue, and we're reading about, Uddhava's response now. Vidura has been asking these questions, first to Maitreya, now to Uddhava, and they're all topics about Krishna and what happened and where are we, where is he, and all of those things in relationship to Krishna so nicely. So the thoughts are absorbed in Krishna. So even when we're at work, people say, we get caught up in the intensity of work, that, how are we to remember Krishna? It comes with practice. It comes with nurturing. And, this is a lesson for me as well, because, work does get hectic for all of us. And it has been getting hectic over the years. When I look back at 33 years of my life at work, in the workplace, it's become so much more hectic than it was when I first started. It's like back-to-back meetings. It's like so many interactions with different kinds of people and different mentalities, different ideologies, different circumstances. What to speak of all the various tools that we have to use at work, things that are changing, and then comes COVID, adds all of this complexity to our life, makes it so difficult, so challenging. And it's only going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. So it is even more important for us to remember Krishna and inculcate that spirit of devotion in our hearts. And that can only happen through proper hearing, right? And regular reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam, association through devotees, and doing our chanting properly. Do some quality chanting. Even if you're doing 4 rounds, even if you're doing 8 rounds, let's aspire to do it with quality, like we mean it. Krishna, cry out to Krishna and say, Krishna, I'm thinking about you. And there is no difference between his name, form, pastimes, and qualities. Krishna has already said that. So although we may not be able to see Krishna with our eyes, we should be able to experience or feel the shelter of our spiritual master and Krishna through our hearts. Even if we can do that for a few moments every day, that in itself will give you enough strength to help you through the rest of your day. Therefore, a request to myself, my mind, is, help me open that lotus of my heart so that I can see the hand of Krishna, so that I can always remember Krishna. So with that, I'd like to end the class for today. If there's anyone, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. But thank you again for, being a part of today's discussion lecture. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Kanakabja Prabhu ki jai. I didn't realize that you were on the call, Prabhu. Any questions? Any discussion?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. All yours to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Prabhu, I don't know regarding tolerance. You have said that, right? Because I'm very, very new. I'm a beginner. I'm very new to the Krishna consciousness, but still, yeah, I keep on like doing my chanting and reading Bhagavatam with Gondmani Mataji's group. And I'm a Lakshmikant Prabhu's Suniti Mataji's family, Prabhu. So yeah,
Hare
I had a question like regarding tolerance.
Yeah.
You said right, like when the situation is getting worse and the negative energy is affecting, so you can just walk out from that situation. But Prabhu, when it comes to children at home, so I feel very difficult. Like whenever a situation comes like that, I try to control. They are kids, they are like that. But sometimes it's above the tolerance level where I lose my control completely. So how to work on that, Prabhu, when it comes to our kids? Because that is the situation where we cannot walk out. We have to solve as a parents. So at that time, I feel little bit trouble handling them, and how to work on that, Prabhu, regarding tolerance.
So one way to look at it is we are all children for Krishna, right? Are
Yes,
we
Prabhu.
behaving ourselves? Imagine the tolerance that Krishna should have. I mean, he has not one child or two children. He has an entire universe of universes of children, right? Whether we are, in this human form or other forms, and we are, we're anything less than being perfect. And imagine how Krishna is dealing with all of us. So I'm not saying that, we are Krishna and we have that level of tolerance. Neither do we have that level of, awareness as to how and who we are and who our children are, because they are souls. At the end of the day, think about it. They're also, in a body for this life, correct? And maternally, you as a mother are so affectionate and so attached to them. So where do you draw the line? At some point in time, discipline has to come in, because if you continue to love them and go to that extreme, you're spoiling your child. They will never learn. On the other hand, if you're too strict with them, they will start to revolt, because then they will view that as, why is this happening to me? Why is my mother being so mean to me? Right?
Yes.
So there has to be a line drawn somewhere. Again, another example that comes to my mind is that, so I don't know if your children are into martial arts and things like that, but when let's say you're a student of martial arts and you're going to the school and your teacher's, teaching you the different moves, she may be, punching you in your chest or in your face, and you may be thinking, oh, what is she trying to do? After a while, obviously those things start to hurt. And then you're thinking, is this person trying to teach me or is she trying to hurt me? Right?
Yeah.
But when you step back, you realize that the actuality is that the teacher is only trying to teach you. It's not like the teacher is trying to hurt you because they want to hurt you, because they want you to get better at what you do, right? How do you defend yourself in this case, in this particular instance, right? Similarly, for children, there has to be some way of stopping them from what they're doing. And if it is getting to a point where it is detrimental for not only, the circumstance, the environment, but also for them also, then we need to stop them and speak to them firmly, not angrily. They shouldn't see anger on your face, but speak to them firmly and let them know this is not the right behavior, right? So we need to correct behaviors where we need to correct them. That takes some guidance, that takes some practice, because in time, when you do it consistently, consistency is very important as well. Not just your facial expressions, but also the consistency with which you do that. If you do that consistently, then at some point in time, they will, that gradually the child will learn, hey, this is something I'm not supposed to do. They will learn. They may not show that initially, they may not even acknowledge that initially, but with time, they will realize that is something to do. And when my mother is telling me this in a tone that is consistent, that is firm, not angry, but firm, then they will also start to recognize that, and they will start falling in line. And Mataji, I'll tell you this, two daughters who grew up, especially my second one, she was extremely mischievous when she was growing up. And now she has a son who's also very naughty, but he's so lovable. You don't feel like screaming or shouting at him, right? And as more so as grandparents, we find it very difficult to tell him, hey, don't do this, you'll hurt yourself. But the mother and the father, sit with him and they explain to him. He's not even 2 years old. He will be 2 years next month. But he is now getting to a point where he understands when he's doing something wrong and his parents are talking to him, he knows that he has to listen and that it is something serious, so that's the first step. Then the second step is correcting that behavior, right? Checking himself. So sometimes it's just seat of the pants, right? It's very spontaneous, something he may not even think. And then he realized, oh, I shouldn't have done that because now my mother's going to come and talk to me. And then sooner or later that becomes practice, right? Where they say, oh, no, I shouldn't be doing that. And they get to that point, but it will happen. You need to have some patience. You need to have consistency. And you need to be firm. You need to draw a line, at some point in time, because it is important. It is important because if we don't correct those behaviors, as parents, we are failing in our duty, right? We need to make sure that they also know, but at the same time, the way we do it is very, very, very important, right? Let's keep that in mind. I know there's no silver bullet, Mataji. This happens, these are things that we learn with experience, because as parents also, we make so many mistakes. It's not just the children who are making mistakes. We make a lot of mistakes ourselves in terms of parenting our children. So getting those lines straight and, the consistency between you and your husband also is very important, because otherwise the child is very smart. The child is going to say, oh, mommy is fine with this, or mommy is strict with this, but daddy is not, right? So then they will play one against the other.
Yeah.
Very, very intelligent, very smart and quick to learn at that. So I don't know if that helped, Mataji, but that's
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah, as you said, that consistency in that behavior should be there. Like what we want to make them learn.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, Prabhu, go ahead. Nothing.
No. You please complete your sentence.
No, that is what, like, we have to be consistent with our behavior, how we are going to teach them. Yeah.
Very true. There's this story about this man who, even as a child, he was spoiled by his mother. So much pampering that happened in his house. He was pampered, and his mother never checked him. And at one point in time, he grew up, had a family, and then did the wrong thing and ended up in jail. And, he was put on death sentence. So he was going to die the next day. So his mother came to see him, in the prison. And the man said, "Come closer to me, mother," he said. And she thought, he was going to tell her something. And she went and put her head against the bars so that she could hear her son. And she was so sad. She was crying and, all of that. And the son just bit her ear so badly that, a chunk of her ear came out. And he shouted at her. And he said things to her. He said, "See, if you hadn't corrected me when I was young, I wouldn't be in this situation today." And that hit her like an arrow right into her heart. She did it out of her love. She took, gave him all the love and more. But she never realized by doing so, sometimes love also has to be tough. You have to have tough love. Because if you're just loving and not correcting, then you're not doing your service. It is a disservice to your child as well. So we, as parents, we have this heavy responsibility to be able to give where we have to give and control where we have to control.
Yes.
So yeah, that was a pastime that came to my mind just now, and I was thinking, I thought I'd share that with you as well, Mataji.
Wonderful, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Any other questions, Mataji? Thank you for joining the class today.
Thank you, Prabhu. Even I feel very hesitant to speak, Prabhu, because only you were there. So I thought, okay, let me.
See, there's a reason for everything. Like I said, Krishna creates that situation. So this is for my purification. This is also giving you the opportunity to ask some of the questions that you want to ask, and perhaps get, whatever Krishna inspires me to tell you, so it's all coming through Krishna. It all goes back to Krishna. So thank you again for being a part of this.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Anything else, Mataji, before we close?
Nothing, Prabhu.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah, wonderful class. I love to hear from all you senior devotees.
That's good when we have discussion, Mataji. That's when, we should be speaking from our hearts as opposed to our heads. Like I said earlier, we shouldn't be PhDs in our heads. It should come from the heart. That's what needs to happen. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mataji. Hare
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.